Okay, here we go. Our daily fuel. We're in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, a church that was started in Corinth, Greece by the Apostle Paul. He stays there for a year and a half. The Corinthians are crazy. Let's just say that they're just crazy people. But Paul says they're saints. They're sanctified. They belong to Jesus. They're coming out of this long, crazy background that they're coming out of centuries of craziness going on in Corinth. But they're believers. They're believers. And Paul said, as crazy as you guys are, you are sanctified. You are set apart by Jesus Christ. You are holy. You are believers. You are God's children. You are God's temple. But boy, what you do with that temple is kind of crazy. So let's see if we can't do a little bit better. So that's where he's bringing them. So he's answering some questions and he's responding to some issues because he had planted the church. He was there for 18 months. He moves. And they start to send him a letter. What's going on? We have this issue. We have that issue. What do we do with this? What do we do with that? But also there's something else going on. And that's that some of the people there are turning away from the Apostle Paul. And they are questioning his apostleship, and they're questioning his authority, and they're questioning his teaching, and they're questioning his abilities, and many of them are turning against him. And Paul, unfortunately, is now going to defend himself. Is that a good thing to do? It's hard to know. And the Apostle Paul seems to say, it's hard to know whether I should defend myself, not defend myself. What did Jesus do? It said of Jesus that as a sheep before her shearers was silent, so he opened not his mouth. Well, is that what we should do all the time? Always be silent? Or should we try to give explanation? Boy, who knows? But the apostle here, he begins to defend himself. In the next letter, it will be almost an entire defense of his ministry as they're attacking his ministry. Even though he started the church and led them all to Christ, they're turning against him. So he says, am I not free? Am I not an apostle? Have I not seen our Lord Jesus Christ? Are you not the result of my work in the Lord? So he's asking, am I or am I not an apostle? Yes or no? Am I free? Did I see the Lord? Yes or no? Are you the result of my work in the Lord? Yes or no? And he said, even though I might not be an apostle to others, because there were other apostles that went out other places and did what Paul did, started churches, started fellowships, helped people grow in the Lord, helped them get their feet on the ground. He said, surely I am to you, for you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. Well, they're a sure sign that Paul's an apostle because people have come to Christ and the church here is being formed. He said, this is my defense of people that sit in judgment of me. So some people are judging Paul. And he said, don't we have a right to food and drink? Oh, because they're saying, the Apostle Paul, all he wanted was our food. All he wanted was our stuff. All he wanted was our money. Don't we have a right to food and drink? Don't we have a right to take a believing wife along with us, as do the other apostles and the Lord's brother and Cephas? So the other apostles were bringing seemingly their wives and maybe their families around as they were doing this. And as they were going, a lot of them were being taken care of by the fellowships that they were starting and the fellowships that they were serving. They're taking care of them. And he said, it is only I and Barnabas who lack the right to not work for a living. Now, what he's saying is that some people were being supported by the ministry. And Paul's saying, it's okay to do that because it's happening with the other apostles, it's happening with Peter, happening with these other guys. And not only are they taking care of Peter, but they're taking care of his wife while he's there. So now, but do know this, that the Apostle Paul didn't take offerings from the churches that he was starting. He had support from other places, and sometimes he would work. He was a tent maker. And sometimes the rest of his team would come in and they would work, and he would give himself to full-time ministry, and they would take care of him. But the other Christian workers were, getting resources and getting paid, as we would say today. And he said, who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Well, nobody. No soldiers are going out there and paying their own bills. Who plants a vineyard and doesn't eat from the grapes? So you plant the grapes, you eat some of the grapes. Who tends a flock and doesn't drink its milk? Well, of course you do. Do I say this merely on human authority? Doesn't the law say the same thing in Moses' law? For it is written in the law of Moses, don't muzzle the ox while he's threshing out the grain. So when the ox was walking around and they would walk around, they'd put the grain on the ground and he had this thing, he goes in this circle and his feet are threshing out that grain. And, he would bend down and he would eat some of it. And they go, well, that's fine. Nobody's going to tell the ox, don't eat that, eat it. You're working. Is it about oxen that God is concerned? Of course not. Surely he says this for us, doesn't he? Yes, this was written for us because whoever plows and threshes should be able to do so in the hope of sharing in the harvest. If we've sown spiritual seed among you, is it too much if we reap material harvest from you? If others have the right of support, shouldn't we have it all the more, since we were the originals? But he's not taking it, but he's being criticized for this kind of activity. And so Paul's making the point that, some people are supported by the ministry, some aren't. Some people are doing an awful lot more ministry work than people who are being compensated. But Paul said, it's certainly legit. So I don't know why you're on my case and why you're on my case anyway, because I don't take it anyway. Even though you think I do, I don't. And he said, but we didn't use this right. On the contrary, we put up with anything rather than hinder the gospel of Christ. So even though he had the right to do it, he didn't do it. And he said, don't you know that those who serve in the temple get their food from the temple, and those who serve at the altar share in what was offered at the altar? In the same way, the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel. There you go. And well, it's not always possible, but there's the Lord's command. But I have not used any of these rights. Even though I could use them, I haven't used them. And I'm not writing this in hope that you'll do these things for me, because I'd rather die than anyone deprive me of this boast. So I'm not saying this so you'll go, we better start supporting Paul. He says, no, don't do that. For when I preach the gospel, I cannot boast, since I'm compelled to preach. Woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. If I preach voluntarily, I have a reward. If not voluntarily, I'm just simply discharging the work that was the trust that was committed to me. God gave him the gospel, and he said, whether I'm having fun or whether I'm not having fun, I'm just going to do it because I'm supposed to do it. Just this. The gospel that I offer for free of charge, so not to make full charge of my rights as a preacher of the gospel. So, however all of this shakes out, I don't think that anybody ever wants to charge people to hear the gospel. And so it's true that missionaries are supported, and sometimes ministers are supported, and sometimes other people are supported. But the gospel is supposed to be for free. Nobody's supposed to be paying for this. Some people are partnering with Paul, but that's different than paying for the gospel. So he said, though I'm free and belong to no one, I've made myself a slave to everyone, to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I become like the Jew to win the Jew. To those under the law, I become like one under the law. Though I myself, I'm not under the law, because I want to win those who are under the law. To those not having the law, I become as one who doesn't have the law. Though I'm not free from God's law, I'm under God's law. So as to win those as not having the law. To the weak, I become weak. To win the weak. I become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I might share in its blessings. So what's he saying? I'll become like the people that I'm ministering to, so I can try to win them to Christ. Now, there is a little bit of a difficulty here, because I become all things to all men, but you can't do it at the same time necessarily. But you can do it. You can do it just trying to win people to Christ, trying to preach the gospel in their language and their understanding. And he said, don't you know that in a race all the runners win, but only one gets the prize? So run in such a way to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training, the Olympics, right? They do it to get a crown that won't last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I don't run like someone running aimlessly. I don't fight like a boxer just beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I preach to others, I might not be disqualified myself. So let's run the race. Let's run it to the end. Let's preach the gospel free of charge to those who are listening. And if people want to partner with us, let them partner with us. But we're going to make it free. That's what we're supposed to do. And these people are coming down on the Apostle Paul. It's really kind of a tragic chapter. So anyway, let's keep moving along in 1 Corinthians, and we'll see some more interesting stuff. Hey, love you guys.